of its reactors are not in category 1. That means they're underperforming and have safety problems. Pilgrim's performance record has steadily declined since 2013 to being, as we've all heard, ranked among the 3 worst performing plants in the country. Pilgrim had 18 reports of failures in last year alone. NRC gave what we considered a scathing preliminary inspection report. It said, for example, we're observing current indications of a safety culture problem that a bunch of talking about probably won't fix. The plant seems overwhelmed, just trying to run the station, failure of plant workers to follow established industry procedures, broken equipment that never gets properly fixed, lack of required expertise among plant experts, failure of some staff to understand their roles and responsibilities. A team of employees appear to be struggling with keeping the plant running. As bad as that was, we're aware of the fact that the special inspection only looked at about 15% of the systems that could cause for failure. And Entergy had tried hard to get those systems right before the inspection, yet they failed miserably. It's reasonable to presume that the rest of the systems and operations that were not inspected, and Entergy did not have the time to rehearse, that they would fail in the future also. And these systems are important to our safety, such as spent fuel storage in the pool, transfer system of moving fuel to dry gas, security, the RAD waste system, and so on. These were not part of this current inspection. Pilgrim is an old reactor for the bigger picture. It's in the wear-out phase. It requires PLC, which means money invested. But Entergy has not put in the money required to properly run this plant. This is because Entergy cannot compete with natural gas and wind in New England's competitive market. It claims to be losing 30 to 40 million a year, and its designation in Category 4 is costing them many millions. Also, Entergy plans to close, announced it did in 2019. So don't expect them to invest in Pilgrim over the next years. Instead, we expect Pilgrim to continue with its policy to wait until it breaks. In conclusion, we encourage you to do your job to protect public safety, and we have confidence that Don Jackson and the rest of the team wants to do that. And this is necessary to promote, to provide reasonable assurance of safety to the public, to put the reactor in Category 5. In doing so, it will be a win all around. A win for the NRC to regain the trust and confidence of the public. It will be a win for Entergy to be able to put the money into plants such as Arkansas that are in utility structures and have a future, instead of putting it down the drain here. And also, that money could be spent in offering good packages for workers who will be without jobs, for training for the workers that will be losing their jobs, instead of wasting their time and causing and potentially bringing about the very bad day that none of us want to think about. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Any other elected officials, board representatives who would like to make a prepared remark or comments at this time?
Thank you for the opportunity, Ken Boggs, on the Board of Selectmen in Plymouth. I just want to re-emphasize something that we have said time and time again to you as the representatives of the NRC, that the main concern of the Plymouth Board of Selectmen is the health and safety of our community. We have repeatedly asked for assistance. I'm very pleased that Senator DiMacedo and others have referenced the letters. Immediately upon the release of Mr. Jackson's memo, the board went to our state delegation, to our senior state elected officials, to our people in Congress, and asked for assistance. I'm very pleased that you as the NRC have honored our request to stay in touch with us. Every other week we have the opportunity to ask you questions, and we're taking advantage of it. We've had 2 meetings already that have been beneficial. But I can't emphasize strongly enough that we depend on you. As I have said many, many times, those of us on the local level are at the end of the chain, and we depend on you to protect us. So please, again, as I end my conversations, health and safety for Plymouth.
Any other elected officials? Okay. All right, so first up is actually number 42 is Mary Lambert. Do you want to I know, right? So this time, though, I assume this is for you personally. This time you will be, we're starting the clock. So once you're ready, I'll get that
I'd
going.
like to cede to David Lockbaum.
Okay.
Oh, you're on the list?
Yeah.
I'm number 4, I'm on the list anyway.
Yeah, you are. You're number, so, yeah, he's actually number 3. He's right here. This is David Lockbaum. This is magic. It's a weird way.
Okay, I will cede to Time to Bluff.
Fair enough.
Thank you. Am I good? I'm Bob Jones for Watershed Association and the town of Kingston. I also serve on the, I'm chair of the Affordable Housing Board, or the Affordable Housing Trust there, which puts me in a rather unique position of having a bigger job to do than just the environment. I want to say that it is, I think, critical that the NRC stop pussyfooting around. Stop segregating every question that comes to you about Pilgrim, and start understanding that it was wrong in the first place to relicense Pilgrim in 2012. You violated your own processes then. Chairman Yasko pointed that out. It should not have happened. Since then, we understand that sea level rise is a critical issue. Climate change is a critical issue. Just as critical as a falling apart vehicle that I might be driving down the road and I have a license and I'm not taking care of that thing. I'm not changing the oil. The tires are wearing out. They're not up to specs. It's not inspected. If I get into a wreck, guess what? I lose my license. If this place is a wreck, they should lose their license. It's simple as that. The important for us here is that it not be refueled. You should not refuel this plant and delay the decommissioning and the site cleanup that has to come to this town and to this region. You are putting our lives and our environment at risk. It is not acceptable. It is not okay to so compartmentalize everything that it loses meaning. So long ago, I heard from MEMA and the NRC that your job is to make people think that they're safe. We're done with that. We know more than that now. We know we're not safe. We know you cannot make us safe. We know Pilgrim is not safe, and we insist that we say the same.
Thank you. Next up is number 41, Sheila Parks. Can someone just confirm that the clock is actually on right now?
Yes.
All right, it's not just beeping. All right. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Dr. Sheila Potts. I'm not a medical doctor, I'm a former professor. I'm the founder of On Behalf of Planet Earth. I have one question to ask all of you from the NRC here tonight, and those of you from the NRC who work on Pilgrim and all the other nuclear power plants in the country. What would you say when you hear this question asked to you? Mommy, Daddy, grandmother, grandfather, auntie, uncle, why did you keep Pilgrim open when you knew how dangerous it was, and that it was not safe, and you were taking the lives of all of the people in this room who live nearby in jeopardy, and playing Russian roulette with our lives, as so many people have used that term? What will you tell them when they know that all the people and many of the elected officials have said, close Pilgrim now, we don't want to die, and you folks don't live anywhere near this place. And what are you going to say to your children, grandchildren, nephews and nieces when they ask you that question? Thank you.
Next up is David Lockbaum of the Union of Scientific.
Thank you. The 95003 inspection covers a lot of ground, but still examines only a small fraction of the safety systems at the plant. Based on the number of 10 to 15 violations in the small sample that you examined, what assurance can you provide about the state of the majority of the safety systems which the team did not look at? Second question was, Mr. Jackson explained that the plant staff seemed overwhelmed or shocked by the arrival of the 20-person NRC team. Does the NRC believe that the same group might also be shocked, overwhelmed? Should an accident occur at that plant and they might have some actions to take? Mr. Dorman mentioned a meeting in late March to talk about the final report, and that the final report itself will be issued in April. Could it be possible for the NRC to issue the report before the meeting so the public could review and comment on it and participate in that meeting in a meaningful way? My last question is, the audience members tonight have been given 3 strikes or they're out. Just out of curiosity, how many strikes are you giving to Pilgrim?
Dave, I think I got these in order. I will say that the safety systems is a portion of the inspection that has you sample on a sampling basis certain safety systems, and we did select, I would say, a smart sample of systems that we wanted to look at during the inspection that we thought we might find issues with, thus the RHR heat exchanger leak issue and the deep engineering evaluation we did on that. I would say the bulk of the rest of the systems are reviewed on a day-to-day basis by the resident staff, senior resident inspector, through the normal ROP process, system walkdowns, reviewing corrective action documents every morning at the plant, and actually just getting out with shoe leather in the plant and getting out in the plant. So I think that covers that part of it. So yes, the procedure has us look at a sample. The resident inspector staff looks at it on a more ongoing basis. The comment again about overwhelmed, the direct answer to your question, I guess I became more clear of this as the inspection went on. I have a kind of a myopic view of nuclear life, being that I was a licensed operator in a control room. So I think everything, the world revolves around the control room, and I could probably make a case for that. I would tell you that the licensed operators in the control room at Pilgrim are as strong and as experienced as I've seen, okay? And I can say that based off of fact, because I am the licensing authority at the site, and we observe the operators in the control room, we observe the operators in the simulating facility. I'm back here in about 3 weeks to license a number of new operators that have gone through a very rigorous 18-month process. what we observed is underneath the operator is a support organization. So you might have 60-ish operators that run the control room, and the balance of the 600 people run things like their corrective action program, the work management process, you name it, the other processes that support the control room. We found some issues with that, okay? The corrective action process is not fully effective. The work management process is not fully effective. Some of the engineering staff is not giving some of the best answers to the control room at times, okay? So the way I liken it to is kind of an obstacle course. This group of licensed operators has gotten very good at maneuvering around some of these other issues at the site other than fix it, okay? So our process is coming in and causing it to get fixed so that the licensed operators do not have to maneuver around the obstacle course. So in an emergency, I believe that the station staff will come together and support the control, because it's kind of a different set of skills, the emergency piece of skills, but it really comes down to when the rubber hits the road with the licensed operators in an emergency situation. I have, like I said, if I could afford buying a house on Rocky Hill Road, I would do it in 2 seconds, because they're that powerful. Can we issue the report early? I mean, it's, I required the team to finalize their inputs actually tomorrow. Today? What's the 31st? Today. Did you get your results in yet? Yes, sir. Thank you. The team's getting it all in today. I mean, we're talking incredible volumes of written material. It's going to take about a month and a half to sort that all out and get it appropriately documented. So I can't commit today to getting it out, but I can tell you what, I want to get it done too. So I will commit to, at the earliest possible convenience, I will not be sitting around waiting for it to get done. We will be getting it done. And I think the other one was the 3 strikes you're out. Any comments to that? Take that as a retort. Okay. Thank you.
I feel like I give credit for setting up that zinger. I just want that on the record. All right, next up we have number 66, which is Mr. William Moore, M-A-U-R-E-R. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing it.
Hi, my name is William Moore. I live in Falmouth, Massachusetts. I'm a member of the KPI Wingers. And I just recently worked on a little study with a fellow named Brian Ford. And we've been hearing about Pilgrim being, one of the worst performing reactors in the country. So we did a little study, and we compared Pilgrim's safety performance record. And we also compared Entergy Corporation's safety performance record to the rest of the industry. And it boggles my mind that the NRC has just come to the conclusion that there's a safety culture problem here, and there's a bunch of talking probably won't fix. It is glaring about Pilgrim's performance. Since the end of 2013, it's done a nosedive from, column 1, 2, 3, 4. Almost uninterrupted except for 2 little quarters. So in that amount of time, 3 years, the NRC and Entergy has not been able to arrest the decline in performance, and it hasn't been able to reverse it. So now you're sitting here telling us that you have come up with a magic formula to arrest or reverse declining performance at Pilgrim. Yeah. That's magical thinking.
Yeah.
That's 4 years. Why should we believe it to be a fact? Another thing that comes to mind, and I want to say this, I've been watching this plant very carefully since about 2012. And I do want to give the men and women who work there a lot of kudos. I think they're good. I really think this is about a corporate safety culture problem at Entergy. Again, Entergy has 3 plants in column 4. They're the only company, they're the only owner-operator in the country that does that. Exelon has 19 plants, they're all in column 1. So, excellence is achievable. So why hasn't Entergy achieved it? It just boggles my mind that you guys are just coming to this conclusion, and we're sitting here talking about this. There's another thing that I just want to say before I quit. is I've been watching the switchyard too. And back in 2015, the switchyard ground faulted, and there was a scram with complications. It was a close call. And that convinced me that those operators at that plant are playing heads up all. Because I think they work magic. And get, without that plant going south. But the thing is the switchyard has been failing since 1978 because the insulators get clogged up with snow and ice.
If you could wrap up your comments, Mr. Morrow, I apologize.
They ground fault and they have a scram. It's happened 9 times since 1978. The switchyard has never been fixed. In the inspection report in January 2015, the inspectors tripped across the insulators that failed in a storm in 2013. The insulators had never been sent out to be tested. And you talk about corrective action plan and root cause determination. This isn't heads up all. This is ridiculous.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to touch on a couple of things. The switch yard is an issue that's been an issue at Pilgrim for a long time. I was the backup project manager for Pilgrim and NRR in headquarters 20 plus years ago, and I remember those issues then. And the issues at that time were year-round issues, and they were tied to salting associated with nor'easters. There was a period from, I would say, mid to late 90s where Boston Edison did some things to address that, and there was a period where, about a decade where that seemed to not be happening anymore. In the last decade, we have had issues. The most recent ones were in 13 and 15, as you indicated. Certain wind directions, high winds, certain kind of heavy snow accumulating on those insulators that were shorting things out and caused scrams. Since the 2015 scram, Pilgrim NRCb has done a couple of things. They have installed heaters for the insulators in the switch yard. That's a lesson learned not just from the nuclear industry, but from the electrical distribution industry that has some benefit to prevent that snow accumulation. They also have established a station procedure that defines the conditions for the winds and the snows, either projected or actual conditions at the site that would require a shutdown of the station and starting the emergency diesel generators to have them ready in case they lose the off-site power. That procedure was invoked for a storm in, I think it was February of last year. The station shut down in advance of the storm. There was a storm earlier this month where those conditions were not met. They did stay at power through the storm. Our senior resident inspector was on site for 24 hours through that storm, including spending the 6 hours of the peak of the storm in the control room to make sure that NRCb was staying on top of the conditions and sticking to that procedure. So there have been some changes to address that. So far, those appear to be effective. You talked about not arresting declining performance. In columns 2 and 3, our inspection program is focused on as the licensee taken the appropriate actions to resolve this presenting issue. And you'll recall 2 years ago, the inspection when they went into column 3 relative to the scrams that occurred in 2013 concluded that they had not met the objectives of that inspection, inadequately identifying the root causes of those scrams and providing corrective actions. And it was that failure that elongated their time in column 3 and provided the entry conditions for column 4. And it's really this inspection that Don's team is finishing up that provides us the input and an understanding of the issues, kind of the softer issues underlying that in the culture of the organization, to have our independent assessment of are they doing things that are going to turn that around. And so I would say the fact that we didn't arrest declining performance, this is the stage in the process where our program is designed to insert us into that process and make that happen. So I think what we're finding now is not inconsistent with what we've seen at the 10 other plants that have been in column 4 in the last 17 years. So I think that gives us some confidence that we have a program that is working to turn those stations around.
I apologize. I meant to, this card was handed to me, but then I seemingly forgot about it instantaneously. I'd like to recognize Julian Sear, who's a state senator for the Cape and the Islands. He's with us this evening. I apologize for not recognizing him sooner. Next up is number 49, who is Twig Johnson. Twig Johnson.
My name is Dr. Twig Johnson. For over 20 years, was a senior social scientist and manager of the U.S. Foreign Aid Program in Washington, D.C. And one of the challenging jobs I had was to evaluate the impact of U.S.-funded foreign aid. And I had good staff and great. One of the things I learned, I believe really important for good government, is that technical problems get solved. We have really smart technical people that are well-trained. Technical problems happily call attention to themselves. The reasons we found for the failure of a lot of programs were institutional. It had to do with, with Admiral Rickover, staff a sub with energy. Not a chance. No, not a chance. So it's really how do you come up with a series of things that will fix the problem. Really smart technical people there and here. But then you assume effective application, effective implementation. Okay? That assumption, there is absolutely no reason to assume that, given the last decade or so of energy. The other thing is all the non-technical yahoos that get involved in managing complex systems. And how does one evaluate them, hold them accountable, and design improvements in their behavior? And I think that's a challenge. That's really a system-wide challenge. Really, wish you a lot of luck, but it's really important. I think that will provide the essence of success and failure. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I do want to address the assuming effective implementation. The input I'll get from Don's team will include an assessment of if effectively implemented, would we expect the actions Entergy will take to reduce sustained performance improvement? When we determine what those actions are, that will be in the confirmatory action letter, which will be probably more in the June timeframe, to find what those actions are that Entergy is committed to take. We will not assume the effective implementation. When they have implemented those actions, we will send inspectors out to assess whether that has been effective. So that's, I just wanted to draw that distinction. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is number 52, who is Joan Geary. Oh, thank you. Please.
I'm number 12, but no.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know.
Hi, Joanne Corrigan, I live in Plymouth, and what you just referred to as a snapshot in time, or something, is that one of these alternative facts that has become so popular? The fact remains, that email was not written by one of the tree-hugging hippies from the Cape. It was written by a 20 or 30-year veteran of the NRC. And it's unvarnished, unadulterated. The facts are the facts. And you can spin it, whitewash it the way you want. But when you read that email, every paragraph is disturbing on so many levels. And that's how it was written. Now, here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we love being number 1 in baseball when the Red Sox win. We love being number 1 with the Pats. We do not like being number 1 as the worst power plant in the country. Also, I was an military tech for 45 years, so I understand half-life, and I understand radiation effects on the cell, and no amount is safe. And I can say that we used to have these inspections at every major hospital I ever worked in. And Jacob would come in and pop quizzes on everything about infectious disease and everything else. And we had corrective action. If something was messed up, we had a certain amount of time to fix it. Not when you got to it, like NRCb has over there. Or everybody would be going home in a body bag. That hospitals don't work that way, and nuclear power definitely should not work that way. You should be protecting the public from all of us.
Okay, next up is number 17, Heather Leitner.
Hi, I'm Heather Leitner. I'm president of Concerned Neighbors of Pilgrim and former member of the Plymouth Nuclear Matters Committee. Whatever side you're on, pro or anti-Pilgrim, we residents are looking to you to be transparent with your findings and to please put public safety ahead of corporate interests. Pilgrim, like anything else mechanical, has a finite lifespan. No one would want a 44-year-old boiler in their home, which is essentially what Pilgrim is, or to commute back and forth from Plymouth to Boston every day in a 44-year-old vehicle. It's inefficient and unsafe, just like Pilgrim. 2 more years of operation are simply not worth the risk to this community. Thank you. Thank you for coming to the class.
Next up, we have number 3, who is Henrietta Briggs Constantino.
Thank you so much for being here to speak to us and address our concerns. And thanks to all the elected representatives. I don't know if any of them are still here, but we appreciate that very much. So many good points have already been made. I don't want to reiterate them. But there's one thing that just stood out to me. Don Jackson, thank you for going through your letter. It's on our minds. But one thing that jumped out at me was you're saying that 3 to 5 years is what it takes to turn around a safety culture. Now, we don't have 3 to 5 years. We have 2 years if it is allowed to continue. But it must not be allowed to continue because this plant is a risk not only to us, the ones who live in Plymouth and 5 miles of the plant, it's a risk to everybody up and down the eastern seaboard, from the top of New England to the bottom. If you overlaid a map of the plume from Fukushima, a plant built exactly on the same model as Pilgrim, it would coat, radioactivity would coat the entire seacoast of New England and beyond. We can't afford this. I have been following the safety violations of Pilgrim for years. They've been, for anybody who wanted to follow them, available in reports in many, many newspapers and on the internet. It did not take this leaked email to give me concern about Pilgrim. NRCb is a miserably run plant, and the violations have been endless. 18 this year alone. There are anecdotal stories of people suffering from cancers, clusters of cancer within the vicinity of Pilgrim. I know what radiation does to people. My brother died as a victim of radioactive fallout in the middle of the 1950s. The incidence of leukemia was epidemic because of atmospheric testing. Fukushima is not as bad as an atom bomb, but it is nothing that any of us can possibly want to contemplate. And to even take the tiniest risk of that is to disrespect all of the people sitting in this room and everybody living in New England and the earth itself, which will be toxified. Plutonium lasts forever. And up until now, nobody has come up with a way to safely contain it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is number 72, who is Michael Frazier. Michael Frazier.
Good evening. My name is Michael Frazier. I'm a resident of Plymouth since 1960. I live on White Horse Beach, and the reason I'm here, I was compelled to come here tonight. My wife said, don't say compelled, it's something out of The Exorcist, but I was compelled to come here. You know, when my grandfather saw the plant coming into town, we were promised an awful lot in this town. Low taxes, low energy bills. Things were going to be great for the town of Plymouth because we were on the landmark. We're Pilgrim's landed. Okay, we came into our community. We have a nuke on the water, and that's great. We're getting good tax dollars from it. And over the years, the game changed and the players changed. When it was Edison, it seemed like things were going okay. And, you know, it was a newer plant, and we had sharp minds in there, and we still have very sharp minds in here. And I want to make it perfectly clear, I am for nuclear power. We need nuclear power. We can't do everything with solar panels. I understand that. But over the years, and I'm around there a lot, by the way, Mr. Tavares, I'll be back to work in a minute. I've seen the plant degrade. Now, it takes 30 years for concrete to find its cure. That plant has been degrading now, it's probably since 1994, maybe a little longer than that. We have the elements of salt. We've already talked about how the plant got shut down in 2013. We have problems getting rid of our spent rods. How many are in the pool? How many are in dry storage? No offense to the liberal base or the environmentalists. We have a facility in Arizona. We can't put the spent rods in because that's been blocked. So what happens when energy decides to pull up their stakes and tents and take off, and then they're gone, and the town of Plymouth, Cape Cod, the South Shore is left with this mess? Because you know it as well as I do, where are we going to put those spent rods? Who's going to clean this up? Has energy put, I don't know, 100, 200 million aside to the town of Plymouth for the cleanup? No, they haven't. So the bottom line is, the plant is degraded. You want to go across the street and build a new plant? Hey, you got my vote. Rip that one down, clean it up, start a new one. I'm all for it. But I want to be on the board. I want to make sure the town gets their share. We don't get hosed like we have been for the last 20 years. I want people in this town to stand up. Our town fathers shouldn't even be letting you guys get away with this. And that's the bottom line.
Thank you. Next up is number 69, which is Ted Thomas. Ted Thomas.
Thank you for coming tonight. All right, thank you for coming tonight. My name is Ted Thomas. I'm a resident of Wellfleet, Mass, and also a member of the Down Cape Downwinders. There is an undeniable fact that everyone in this room knows, and that is that you've seen tragedy. You've seen tragedy because of the result of a known offender, a repeated offender. And that Entergy is a known repeated offender. You might wonder why we keep coming to these meetings, why groups get formed, and why they fund economic studies, environmental studies. They go off and they learn everything they can about the NRC, about Entergy as a corporation. That answer is real simple. We have everything to lose. If you, the NRC, are this independent regulatory commission, then you are responsible for every living creature in Region 1 pertaining to nuclear energy. And safety for all the people involved. And finally, I want to say, and I'll put this, before I say this, I want to say, this has nothing to do with the employees at Pilgrim. This happens to be all about the NRC. And I'm going to put it in naval terms because you'll understand better. All of us here and who live around the Pilgrim Power Plant are on a sinking ship. And you, the NRC, happen to be at the helm. So it's you. If tragedy strikes, you own it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is number 63, which is Sarah Alter. Okay.
I'd like to hand this to the folks up front.
I'll take it.
My name's Keith Maxwell. I've been in the power industry for quite a few years. I did work at Pilgrim when it was Boston Edison. And, you know, public information is the sheet I just handed to you. Pilgrim site license has had utility executives involved with organized crime, John Conley. The paper I gave you has a picture of him that says, Black Mass Films gives corrupt FBI agents utility job. Former FBI agent John Conley is serving a 40-year sentence on a murder charge in Florida prison. Edison hired Conley as its director of security and later made him director of corporate relations, working as a legislator as a liaison for utility. He handled the stranded cost recovery and eventual sale of Pilgrim to Entergy, which means indirectly or directly Entergy was profiting from organized crime. So my question is, from a fitness for duty for a licensee, you can couple this with Entergy's record at A&O, where their 2013 human capital management program may have been directly involved in the human fatality, or in other words, corporate Entergy manslaughter. How can the NRC justify, from a fitness for duty and nuclear safety culture point of view, Entergy Corporation continuing to hold a nuclear license? And then one comment on the leaked email. The leaked email consistently said that, seemed that the people, the workers, which I agree are good people, but that they were all overwhelmed that they did not know what good looked like. When a lot of the existing managers at Pilgrim come from the corrupt, organized crime period at Boston Edison, continue working there today, and were part of the 1989 to 1993 recovery effort, which was similar to the 9503 process here, and know what good is and what good looks like because they were part of the confirmatory